They think heartbreak is silent, but sometimes it echoes across skylines. He didn't just block my number, he deleted the entire version of me that lived in his eyes. I was supposed to disappear. Quietly, gracefully, like I was never here. But I had a louder ending in mind. I used to believe love was written in the stars. Turns out my closure came printed in bold, 14 feet high, above the freeway. People whispered that I'd lost my mind. But losing him was how I found my voice. He wanted silence. So I gave him a billboard. My name is Ava Monroe, I'm 29 and I live in Portland, Oregon. I was supposed to be the golden girl. The straight-A student who made it out of our small town in Washington, graduated with honors, and landed a job in corporate marketing by the age of 24. Everyone expected me to get married by 27, have 2 golden retrievers, and maybe, just maybe, a cabin near Lake Chelan. For a while, I followed that blueprint. I did everything right. I kept my head down, said thank you too often, and tried not to take up too much space. And then, I met Eli Walker. Eli wasn't like anyone I had ever dated. He was tall, charming, and always made people laugh without even trying. He worked in commercial real estate and lived in downtown Seattle. Our worlds collided at a networking event I almost didn't attend. I still remember what he said the first time we talked. You look like you know what you want, but you're still afraid to ask for it. I laughed, not knowing how true that would become. We moved fast. Dinners that turned into weekends. Weekends that became shared drawers, toothbrushes at each other's places, and sleepy morning coffees made with silence and comfort. It was intense, but it felt safe. I thought, finally, I found my home in someone. At least, that's what I told myself. Eli was supportive at first. He encouraged me to go after the promotion at work to launch my branding side business on the weekends. But over time, things started to shift. Comments became sharper. You always have to be doing something. You never just relax. You want a billboard before you even have a blog. I started shrinking to make the relationship fit. When I didn't get the promotion, he said, maybe you're just not leadership material. When I cried after my father's health scare, he stayed distant, telling me I was too emotional to be effective. But I stayed. I stayed because I had always been taught to love harder when it got hard. That if someone pulls away, you hold tighter. I thought love was endurance. Until the night he blocked me. No warning. No argument. No closure. Just a text that said, I don't think we're good for each other. Please don't reach out. I need space. Followed by, blocked. I remember holding my phone and refreshing the message thread like it would undo itself. Like my heartbreak was some glitch I could fix. I cried for 3 days straight. Called my sister, called my best friend, even called his voicemail, which didn't pick up anymore. I replayed every conversation, every moment, every laugh, trying to find the moment he stopped loving me. But I never saw it coming. That's what broke me the most. My friends tried to help, but nothing worked. Girl, forget him. He's not worth it. You dodged a bullet. He's intimidated by your light. But the thing is, when someone you love blocks you out, it doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like erasure. Like you never existed. And that's what I lived with for months. I stopped posting on social media. I quit my branding side business. I deleted every draft of the blog I was going to launch. I faded. Quietly. Obediently. Until one night, 3 months after the block, I sat alone in my apartment eating reheated pad thai when a billboard outside my window caught my eye. It wasn't profound. It wasn't even beautiful. Just a giant ad for a mattress company. But something in me stirred. I whispered out loud, like a confession. I deserved to take up space too. That night, I dusted off my notebook, opened a blank Google document, and began writing the lines that would one day stretch across 6 lanes of traffic. But back then, no one noticed. Not my friends. Not my coworkers. Certainly not my ex. I was starting over. Alone. But alive. They say healing isn't linear. But for me, it started with one simple line. Some wounds don't ask for revenge. They just want to be seen. I typed it at 2:12 a.m., sitting on my kitchen floor with tea, that had gone cold. I didn't know what it meant yet. I just knew it came from a place deeper than my disappointment. After Eli blocked me, I had spiraled quietly. But slowly, with no one watching, I began to build something again. Not a business. Not a brand. Just sentences. Truths that lived inside me. I created a private Instagram page. No followers, no bio. Just a canvas. Every day, I posted a quote, a line, a phrase. They weren't clever. They were real. You can block a number, not a memory.
She didn't want revenge.
She wanted release. Healing is loud in silence. It wasn't until my coworker, Janelle, asked me at lunch if I'd ever thought about putting one of them on a t-shirt that I even considered the idea of going public again. You know, she said, scrolling through the page after I hesitantly showed her, these are the kind of things people write in journals or on mirrors when they need to cry. I smiled, surprised. I thought they were too personal. That's exactly why they matter, she said. You never know who's reading them at the right time. That stayed with me. At night, I started researching how Billboard space worked. It wasn't as impossible as I thought. There were sites where you could rent digital ad space by the week. Some were cheaper than expected, especially the ones not in prime city spots. It became a quiet obsession. I didn't want to advertise anything. I just wanted to be something people saw. I wanted to reclaim space, my space. But I wasn't sure which line was the line. I kept writing, kept listening. One day, something happened that changed everything. I had started volunteering at a community center on Sundays, helping senior women navigate the basics of tech, email, text messages, FaceTime. It gave me structure, purpose. Plus, the ladies were hilarious. That afternoon, I sat with Mrs. Delaney, a feisty 71-year-old with red glasses and a drawer full of mints she called her survival kit. This machine hates me, she muttered, stabbing at her iPad. I gently guided her through how to open her messages. Tap here. Her eyes widened.
Oh.
That's for my son. He lives in Texas. I haven't seen him in 5 years. But look, he sent me a photo of my granddaughter. She gasped and covered her mouth. Then her voice cracked. You brought my baby into my living room. Something broke open in me in that moment. Not because of the iPad, but because I realized connection isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about small screens and simple lines. I went home and stared at a blank page for an hour. Then I wrote. She thought she needed closure. She just needed to be heard. The next morning, I clicked submit on the Billboard form. I chose a location off a freeway near Capitol Hill. Not the fanciest, but visible. It cost me $684 for 1 week. I emptied my savings. I didn't tell anyone. It felt insane. And yet, incredibly right. When the confirmation email came in, I just stared at the words. Your message is scheduled to go live Monday at 7 a.m. I whispered to myself, you did it, Ava. Not because it would go viral. Not because it would fix anything. But because I finally did something for me. It didn't make headlines. It didn't trend. But it mattered. Because for the first time in months, I didn't feel invisible. I thought the Billboard would be the peak. A week of feeling seen by strangers on their commute, maybe by a few people who guessed the meaning. Then I'd go back to my life, healed in some quiet, poetic way. But something strange happened. People started taking pictures. Not of me, of course.
Just the message.
The line I had chosen. She thought she needed closure. She just needed to be heard. Someone posted it on Reddit under a thread called Messages from the Universe. Another person tweeted it and captioned, to whoever wrote this, thank you. I needed it. The image spread faster than I could process. By the end of the week, a local influencer tagged it in her story, saying, found this near Capitol Hill. Who is this for? Because it spoke directly to my soul. Within days, the anonymous Instagram I had started months earlier jumped from 12 followers to over 3,000. People were DMing me things like, your words helped me through my breakup. I didn't even know I needed to cry until I read that. Did you write the Billboard? Please say yes. I didn't respond at first. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's story unfold. But the messages kept coming. Quiet gratitude from people who were healing, too. So I started posting more. Not just quotes, but pieces of my story.
Softly.
No names. No drama. Just truth. Then came an email from a woman named Kira Santiago, founder of a nonprofit called Write Loud, a collective that shares healing poetry in public spaces. She wrote, "I've been following your page for a while. The Billboard was brave and brilliant. Would you consider speaking at one of our storytelling nights?" My first instinct was to say no. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't even sure who I was becoming. But something inside me said yes. The night of the event, I stood under soft lights, holding trembling note cards. The room was filled with women, queer folks, artists, and strangers who leaned forward like they already knew the shape of my story. I read aloud the words that had lived in my drafts folder for over a year. And when I was done, the room stayed quiet for a beat too long, then erupted into applause that felt less like noise and more like validation. That night, I walked home under a sky that finally felt wide enough for me. The growth didn't stop. I launched a small online shop for minimalist art prints of the most requested quotes. Orders trickled in from Maine, Atlanta, even the UK. I partnered with a women's shelter in Tacoma to donate a portion of the proceeds. I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. But I was becoming something I hadn't been in a long time. Whole. And yet, my family remained silent. My sister knew, of course. She'd been cheering me on from the shadows, forwarding me articles, sending "proud of you" texts. But my mom, my aunt, my cousins? Nothing. At Thanksgiving, my aunt asked, "So, are you still doing that little word thing?" When I told her about the print orders and workshops, she smiled like someone humoring a child's lemonade stand. "Oh, that's cute," she said, stuffing cranberry sauce into her mouth. Teaching old folks how to text and writing heartbreak quotes on signs. Very noble. I nodded, said nothing. What could I say? My uncle asked when I was getting back into real marketing. My cousin muttered something about emotional oversharing becoming a trend. And then came the worst part. My mother pulled me aside in the kitchen. Her voice soft, but her words sharp. "You're stronger than this, Ava. You don't need to keep writing about him." I blinked, stunned. "It's not about him anymore." She looked at me, almost confused. "Then why can't you write about something else?" I wanted to scream, to throw every DM, every order, every teary thank you in her face. But I didn't, because it wouldn't matter. To her, pain was something you buried, not printed. I left early that night. As I walked to my car, I passed a stranger parked at the curb scrolling on her phone. She looked up, then back at her screen. And then she said, "Oh my God, are you Ava? Like the Ava from the Billboard?" I froze.
"Yeah,
that's me." She lit up. "Your quote got me through my divorce. I have it framed in my bedroom." I smiled, heart pounding. "Thank you." As I drove off, I thought, my family might never see me, but the world does. And maybe that was enough. It happened on a Tuesday. The kind of gray, sleepy Seattle afternoon where the sky forgets to make up its mind. I was sitting in the back corner of Cypress Grounds, a cozy little coffee shop near Pike Place, laptop open, headphones in, tweaking the layout for a quote submission form on my new website. I had been getting flooded with requests from people asking if they could share their own stories through billboards. Something I never planned. Something I now deeply wanted to build. I was half listening to the cafe playlist and half watching a barista try to froth milk with one hand when a voice said, "Excuse me, are you using this chair?" I looked up. A man stood there, mid-30s, sharp blazer, phone in one hand, a gift bag in the other. His face was familiar, but not immediately. His tone? Polite, hurried, just like every other suited visitor who passed through the city. I shook my head. "Nope, go ahead." He sat, settled in, pulled out a tablet, checked emails. I went back to work. Or tried to. But then I saw it. He opened a photo gallery app and there it was. My billboard. The same billboard. The photo taken from the freeway angle, time-stamped.
He paused on it. Stared.
I tried to ignore it, but curiosity caught me. He tapped the screen, showing it to someone over FaceTime. A woman's voice came through, muffled, but clear enough. That quote?
That saved me.
You don't even know. After everything with your brother, I thought I'd never breathe again.
The man nodded, silent.
Then spoke. Do you remember who she was? The woman behind it. The woman replied, no idea. But whoever she is, she gave a voice to people like me. He smiled softly. I think I'm sitting next to her. I froze. Before I could respond, he turned toward me and asked gently, I'm sorry, but did you create that billboard near Capitol Hill a few months ago? I hesitated, heart racing, breath shallow. Yes, I said. I did. He paused. His whole expression changed, from polite to reverent. I'm Eli's brother. I blinked. Eli. Blocked me without a word. Eli. Shattered me and ghosted Eli. I felt my stomach flip, my hands go cold. He never told me what happened, he continued. But I remember him being different after you. Quieter. Colder. And then one day, he showed me a picture of a billboard. Yours. Didn't say a word. Just stared at it like it was some kind of ghost. I didn't respond. What could I say? He reached into the gift bag and pulled out a small, white box. I wasn't supposed to do this. But I saw your face on the Write Loud site last week. I recognized you. And I knew. So this. He handed me the box. This is from him. I didn't move. I didn't take it. I'm not here to defend him, he said quickly. But I do think he wanted to say something. He just didn't know how to. I finally took the box. Opened it slowly. Inside was a single ivory-colored envelope with my name written in Eli's handwriting, sharp, slanted, controlled.
And beneath it flowers.
Real ones. Pressed and preserved. Lilacs. My favorite. The ones I mentioned once, randomly on a walk through Volunteer Park. The ones I said reminded me of spring after long winters. My throat tightened. I opened the note. It was short. Simple. No excuses. I was a coward. I left the minute you stopped shrinking. But you were never small. I just couldn't stand your light. Forgive me if you can. But even if you don't, thank you. I see you now.
E.
I sat in silence, the note trembling in my hand. The brother spoke again. He wanted to send them anonymously. But I told him that wasn't enough. You deserved to know. You changed lives. Including his. I nodded slowly. It's strange. I didn't put the billboard up for him. I know, he said. That's why it worked. He stood up, gave me a quiet nod, and walked out, leaving behind the scent of lilacs and a moment that somehow, after all this time, didn't ache. I folded the letter. Put it back in the box. Not to reopen, not to frame. Just to keep. Quietly. As proof that even silence breaks eventually. I didn't post about it. Didn't tell my mother. Didn't text my sister. Because some victories don't need to be shared. Not because I demanded attention, but because the truth walked in by itself and refused to stay quiet. When I walked into the gallery that night, I didn't expect to feel peace. Months had passed since the billboard incident. The flowers had long since wilted. I had never responded to his apology, not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally understood. Some chapters don't need revisiting. They need closure. And mine came in shades of sky blue and soft lavender, splashed across the canvas of my first public art showcase. Titled, Love, Blocked, A Journey in Brushstrokes. As I stood in front of my largest piece, a replica of the billboard, only with the words, I deserved better, I felt someone walk up beside me. I didn't have to look. I already knew it was him. Liam. He didn't say a word at first. Just stared at the painting, then down at the floor, hands deep in his pockets like they might hold the weight of everything he never said. I saw it, he finally said. The billboard. I drove past it every day for weeks. I thought it would fade. But it didn't. Neither did I, Liam. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I had moved beyond the need to defend myself. He had already read my truth in giant letters above the world. He turned to me, his voice quieter now, almost reverent. You really turned pain into power. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. I met his eyes, for the first time in months, and found no fear, no longing, only clarity. That was never about you, I said. It was for me, to remind myself that I don't vanish just because someone can't handle my light. He blinked, his shoulders softening. I was afraid, he admitted. You were everything I said I wanted, but when I actually had it, I panicked. I thought blocking you would give me control again. I nodded slowly. And that billboard? That gave me back my control. We stood in silence again. Not awkward, just complete. He offered a small, sad smile. I'm proud of you, Ava. You didn't just survive me. You became art. I smiled too, not out of spite or triumph, but from deep, grounded peace. Thank you, I said. And I truly hope you find whatever you're looking for. He nodded once, then walked away. No drama. No grand declarations. Just closure. And as the next wave of gallery guests filtered in, I turned toward them, toward the future. My pain had been seen, my voice had been heard, and most importantly, I had rewritten the narrative. Because sometimes, healing doesn't come from a return. It comes from a release. 6 months later, I stood beneath a brand new billboard. This time, it wasn't a message of pain or defiance. It was a celebration. A soft pink background with golden cursive letters that read, "She chose herself." And that changed everything. Ava Cole Studio. Yes, I turned that heartbreak into a business. Art therapy workshops for women like me. A podcast. A book deal. Even a TEDx talk titled Blocked But Not Broken. I used to think closure came from someone admitting they hurt you. But now I know, closure comes when you stop bleeding for the people who cut you. Liam? He never reached out again after the gallery night.
And that was perfect.
Some people are just visitors in your story, meant to shake you, not stay. I don't paint for him anymore. I paint for the girl I used to be. The one who waited by the phone. Who blamed herself. Who thought being blocked meant being unworthy. Now I honor her in every color I use. And I remind others like her. You are never too much. You were just too real for the wrong person. As cars pass by my new billboard on Sunset Boulevard, I smile. Not because I proved anything to him, but because I proved everything to me.